The last thing any of us want is just another action plan sitting on a shelf, another strategy sitting on a shelf. Find other sustainability organizations that you can partner with. We can't scale on our own, but we need to be pulling all in the same direction. We just don't know where to start, and we've just got so much data being out there in so many different systems. How can we bring all of that together, make that available, so that they can get straight to the insights, straight to the decision making, and hopefully just know, where do we start?
Welcome to the Plucky Bamboo podcast. I'm your host, Chris Jones. I'm also a growth strategist working with sustainability companies. On this show, I speak to founders, CEOs, and innovators driving sustainability forward. We explore their growth challenges and how they work through them, and share practical tips and insights on how you can grow your business. Every episode is packed with insights to help you scale your impact. Let's dive in. Hi, Simon. Thank you very much for joining me today. Simon is the MD of City Science, but Simon, I will let you introduce yourself a little bit more.
Thanks, Chris, and thanks for having me on. I'm not in a construction site here. For those who are viewing, we're in Sustainable Ventures, which is in the old County Hall building in Waterloo in London, and to save on all the refurbishments, they have it like this. Prior to this, I was at Transport for London doing public transport strategy. I am a chartered transport planner through a lot of what I've been doing, whether that's transport modelling, sustainable transport planning, other things in that space. I came into City Science after working for Rory Stewart on his mayoral campaign for London. I joined that because I was looking to change the direction that transport was going, to challenge a bit more around what else could we do, how could we go beyond just the standard, we're going to put a bus lane here, we're going to put a cycle lane there, we're going to deliver EV charging. How could we go beyond that and try and do something more transformational? And unfortunately, in doing that, I realized that I couldn't go and work for local authorities, because when they would ask me to put in a new car park or expand the road, I was probably going to say no. And that was going to be problematic. And also, I probably couldn't go to some consultancies because they would probably ask me to work on those local authorities' projects. And in the end, I was looking at what were my options. City Science had come across my radar as they were developing some tools in transport modelling, which has been my background. And it was all around automation. How do you build a microsimulation model from a strategic model? For those who don't know, basically, how do you take a strategy and make something local that can evaluate localized initiatives? And they developed something that could do that. And that got my attention, because I thought, that's nice, I don't believe you. So I wanted to know more. I wanted to delve into it. I wanted to kind of see what it could actually do. Turns out they could. But I could point out to them the three things they weren't doing, and three things that if they did differently or recorded information differently, they could carry through and take it a bit further. So yeah, to give you kind of a rounding, my background's been very much sustainable transport, a lot around data, and how do we challenge the status quo? And City Science has kind of evolved or appeared to me in a fully formed solution to that, which has been quite nice.
I can see that you've shifted roles at City Science as it's kind of grown and you've been in the company. Tell me a little bit about your initial vision for your role when you first started and how that's evolved as you've continued.
Yeah, so when I joined City Science, it was March of 2020. Some people that date might be familiar to some people. For me, that was the time when my wife was coming off maternity leave. And others, they may recall Boris Johnson was very like talking about next slides. And my kids were also, over that period, also saying, can we go to the next slide, please, Dad? Because basically, within 2 weeks, I went from being the only remote person to everyone being remote. And so I was the 14th person who joined City Science. And I was going to be the only person fully remote. So I was going to be calling into every meeting that we were having. And it's going to be traveling around the Southeast, meeting with every client that the CEO was going to give me to go and meet with. Half of my day was spent on video calls with clients, video calls with people who had lost their roles for whatever reason because of slowdowns in Heathrow and other projects. And so it was a lot of how do we build a transport team. So at that time, City Science was mainly software developers with a transport and a bit of an energy research side and a bit of transport consultancy. We're now 50 strong with a fully functional transport consultancy, transport modeling involved in that, and an energy consultancy, a retrofit offer, a digital offering, and our digital products have really gone forward, but we can get to that in a bit. And so the question of why has my role changed throughout that? I came in to build them a transport planning team. We did that. Then we had to kind of build them an energy team. We did that. And as those have scaled, my role has shifted a lot more back towards now actually both of those are big enough to be their own. And so my role is now more focused towards how do we then build that transport offer in a way that is transformational? How do we, going back to why I started doing this, how do I do it so I'm not just another consultancy providing the same services? How do we use our software development background to actually provide broader benefits to local authorities and to lots of local authorities at the same time? Because they all have the same challenges, and there's no point in commissioning 80 different commissions to do 80 different evidence bases that are not the exact same. They're trying to be the same, but are completely different. And the focus should be on how do we get insights out of that to actually move forward. So the short answer of my long answer is our software development team create tools that can automate a lot of that, can get us quicker to insights, and can get those insights quicker to decision makers to help decarbonize, deliver sustainable transport, and hopefully just cut through a lot of the bureaucracy of over-commissioning and hopefully as well save local authorities the money to actually deliver.
Yeah, we all know local authority finances are a bit stretched at the moment, so anything that can help them, I think, is going to be a real big boon for them. What's the biggest challenge do you face in, I guess, helping clients adopt city science, and how are you tackling that? Or even new people that aren't necessarily clients taking on the tool, taking on the work?
Yeah, so there's three points to that. One is AI, big data, automation. Everyone talks about it, but they're often talking about it within their existing project, not necessarily what we're trying to do. I'd love it if everyone was doing what we're trying to do, but we want to try and solve everyone's problem by solving one person's. So we want to say, we've made this for these people. Would everyone else like it? Here you go. So there's that side. What we used to call, greenwashing in some ways has been an issue for us. Not us, but an issue for onwards. Our reputation of that our strapline is delivering decarbonisation. That is exactly all we do. We don't have a sustainability team. We don't have a decarbonisation team. Everyone is focused on either data, software, or decarbonisation, or all of those things together. And that's what we do as a business. It's about delivering insights around decarbonisation. So that's been tricky to not get mixed in with the sustainability, decarbonisation, carbon reduction wave of people saying, oh yeah, we do this too. But it's just like a tiny part of what they're doing. And which I'm all for. If it could be everything they do, that would be great. I wouldn't have to do what I do. I can just go spend time with my kids. I can just run a bunch of marathons. I wouldn't need to do this. So if we can put ourselves out of having to be needed, then great. The other is scale. We're small. Like I said, 14 people, now 50 people. We've got these tools that support loads of people and can be used by loads of people. But we don't have the scale to help loads of people. So that scalability, we can scale. You can literally click a few times and move our software from one place to another, or just do a drop down and select a different place. But I then need to be able to go and talk to that place or have someone else talk to that place. And word of mouth has really helped that. Returning clients has really helped that. Because keep in mind as well, we're small. So our targets are like within some of these giant consultancies' margin of errors. But our target in terms of impact is far more than I would say with that aspiration is. So our aspirational impact is a lot higher, but how do we deliver that from a scalable position as an SME?
The fact that you're a tech company probably helps that. It's always easier to scale tech than it is to scale, say, like physical products or even consultancy work, because you have to go in and work with them. Mm-hmm. Whereas if they have a tool, it's a lot easier to do so. Talk to me a little bit about that then. How is it that you're approaching the market now that you have this software? You've said, obviously, so far a lot of it has been through referrals and word of mouth and everything. Are you looking at other ways to approach the market? Have you tried anything that hasn't worked?
Yeah, so to start with, we were trying to go one-to-one to everyone, and that just doesn't work. Well, it does, but it's very slow. Our approach then, we shifted to how far up the food chain, if you will, or how, like, combined authority is quite good because it means that we then can work with lots of local authorities. Well, actually, what about the strategic transport bodies? That means we can work with more of their local authorities. England's Economic Heartland has been a really big player in that they've really come on board and really have worked with us. And so our software is available to all of their local authorities. And so we're looking for other partners like that. We were meeting with someone this morning who fits that mold very well. They have a lot of the same transport problem everywhere. It's a market that isn't local authority, which is very interesting. I won't necessarily say who it is because that's not where I'm going. But if we can solve their problem for one of their areas, it will solve as many of it for all of them, or at least give them the insights to be able to know what's next. I was at a careers fair in Bristol the other day, and I used a term with them that I think is relevant here of all those students are coming into that room at that careers fair, knowing that there might be something here, but they just don't know where to start. They just don't know quite what they're going to do. They've got their degree or the degree's coming, but they don't know what to do with it. They don't know where they're going to go next. That's the exact same with decarbonization, or with transitioning a fleet, or delivering sustainable transport, or just changing how services operate, or what activities are available locally. And often it's just, we just don't know where to start, and we've just got so much data being just out there in so many different systems. How can we bring all of that together, make that available so that they can get straight to the insights, straight to the decision making, and hopefully just know, where do we start?
It's an interesting one you say that. There's obviously quite a few companies trying to put together lots of data from lots of different sources. One that comes to mind is Ecomedes. So they're based in the US, and they do a lot of work around gathering the sustainability data of office materials or production materials and things like that, so that companies can then source and procure products that are sustainable. I'm hearing that from a lot of sustainability officers within companies, where it's like, there is so much here. How do we navigate it and translate it all, and what do we do with it? And then also, how do we get buy-in from upper management who may not necessarily care in the same way that we do? It's. I think you're the first company I've heard of that's looking at it in a sustainable transport side of things. The one-to-one thing is very difficult because obviously getting out into the market, a team of only 50 people, half of them are probably software engineers, not going to be going out and speaking to people. Do you have any ideas of what you might be doing over the next 12 months to try and fight that and get yourself out there into local authorities and maybe the private sector more?
Yeah, so we've brought in some really interesting people into the team more recently who have that sort of mindset, of, this is how we scale this. This is how we get these products in front of people, in front of the right people, and get it into a way that we can move forward. My approach has been very much go through the local authorities, and that's been my background was local authority work. It's public sector roles, and we've got good at that in terms of the consultancy element. But we know as well that no matter how much we scale our consultancy business, we can't even provide consultancy services to enough people. So that's not really where our model is. Our model is, yes, we do these consultancy services, but we do it in order to automate. We do it in order to take steps forward, and then also to support. I would far more prefer that we get our products to companies to more companies, and provide the consultancy services to those people who really need it, the people who probably couldn't afford it otherwise. Whether that's like schools to help with their active travel planning, or their retrofitting, or school streets, trying to support that with real emphasis behind it, or your health sector, your community transport services. Those are the sectors that I really want to be moving to support more, because it's that social impact, and those are some of the trips that are often overlooked within the transport sector. A lot of it is based around your morning average commute, and that isn't representative of journeys. It's just ironically the mode. It's the one that happens the most, or deemed to happen the most, and that's what our network's been designed around. And so what we need to be thinking about going into the future is, now that we can take data in far different ways, how do we consider that? But to go back to your point, a big step of that is taking a step back before we go forward and going, okay, we need to be influencing where this goes next. We need to be disrupting how things are currently done. If we can provide this data, this evidence at bulk, let's do it. Let's put it out there and make it available. So the people who are currently already doing this work, sure, lots of them probably love the data. Some of them really won't. But they're better off using their degrees, using their experience, using their expertise to actually provide those insights and the next steps forward. And the local authorities are better off using their money to actually deliver. The last thing any of us want is just another action plan sitting on a shelf, another strategy sitting on a shelf. If we can disrupt that ecosystem to accelerate it, to get everyone to that, raise the bare minimum, raise the basics, and make that available, and make it so that local authorities have better access to these insights, to the tools that they would need to do what they need to do, to make it that they're not trapped into contracts where they can only use one consultant every time they want to run a transport model or extract a bit of data. Then it's not just kind of upskilling, it's broadening that capability. And the people who are then in those local authorities can go ahead and do the work. And they're not being held back by, I need to go and get the evidence and build this business case around this. That we can get so many steps already into that process to help them along that path, and hopefully as well make it so that the interventions and the measures that they're looking at are more sustainable, are working in the same direction that the industry should be going. So that's how we think we can have a broader impact, have more people using our approach. What we're seeing, and what I've seen over the last 5 years while I've been in city science, or just under, is the other consultancies are starting to see us as not a threat, not a competitor, but and also not what it felt like they were seeing us as originally, which was a little bit of added value, the cherry on the top. They're seeing us as potentially that, we can actually help them move forward and help them get to the crux of what they're trying to do. Yes, it's going to mean that it's cheaper for them, and then they can do it more effectively and possibly change their margins and whatever. But also, we might be able to accelerate that decision making. And so one project which we've just been commissioned on recently, we're the lead, and two of the biggest international consultancies are our supply chain. And it's a very weird situation, but it seems to be that could work. And it shows the respect that they've given us to say, we back you. We are literally backing you. Go do this, go change the industry, and then we'll take it from there.
At first, you, I guess, had a little bit of pushback from consultants in that way. Do you find that you're getting much pushback, or are you getting much interest from local authorities at this point? Or does it still feel like sustainability is just a backroom kind of leave someone else to do it thing?
I'd say it's a bit of both. We'll talk to local authorities and they'll say, we'd love to use you, we just don't know how. And sometimes I just say, look, let us be in the mix. Just have us in the mix and we'll compete. But we don't have those long-standing relationships where some consultancies literally have a person responsible, their entire role is responsible for, say, getting work out of 5 specific local authorities. And their end game is to deliver the highway infrastructure or something along those lines. And so their planning function is supporting that side of it. We don't have that. A key benefit over the last few years, particularly since COVID, is we've been at a lot more conferences. We've actually been able to get out and meet people.
Now they're being held, yeah.
Yeah, there is far too many of them, as my wife will tell me when I'm away for endless days on end. But the key thing there is that people are hearing about us, and people are actually coming to find us at these things and saying, hey, we've heard about this. Or if not that, they're following us up afterwards. And prior to that, during 2020, 2021, we were doing webinars and things, as others were as well. But I think that's definitely helped to raise our profile. Something's gone right for us to go from 14 to 50 people, and a lot of that is our consultancy. I used to be able to, name everyone's animals that they might have, their pets, their hometown, and we don't want it to be, I think, I'm not saying that it's faceless in any way, because the other thing we say to people as well is, it's not just about how do we get the clients, it's how do we get the people, how do we get the right people in. And that's been really tough as well, because you want people who understand the basics really well, but also see where it could be different, see where it could be, where you could be in 5 years and a pathway to get there. And that's been really tricky to be able to explain to people, yes, we have software development, but not everyone's going to do software development. We're going to have software developers doing software development. So just because you're into the numbers doesn't mean you get to necessarily go and do that. But at the same time, a lot of people were leaving some of the other consultancies for various reasons. And part of that would be maybe they got pigeonholed. We were just running a session with about 2/3 of our staff in London last Thursday. And I said to everyone, look, if any of you ever feel that you are getting pigeonholed, come up with a topic, come see me or message me. We'll find an opportunity to go and do the research in that space, and we'll bid for it. We'll go after it. We'll, as long as it aligns with our business model, we can go do some research that they might be interested in. And in the same way, we want to partner up with universities where let's give them some data challenges to go and do. Find some tricky data that we know we'd love to have, but they might be able to do a hackathon on it and get it to a point where we can actually potentially use it. So I think there's a lot of collaborations externally and also internal collaboration of actually saying, what do people want to do? How do we make an organization where people feel welcome and their ideas are welcome and they're open to challenging what we're doing?
So I want to double click into that a little bit, if that's okay. So a lot of the sustainability companies that I've spoken to over the past year have had any number of issues, but what a lot of sustainability companies seem to struggle with is recruitment. So it's one thing sort of getting clients in and building operations and things like that. They're really struggling with getting people on board because a lot of companies in sustainability don't necessarily have the budgets. And while it's great to be able to get people involved because of the mission or the vision, typically it's just a case of practicality. And so have you had struggles with recruitment? If you have, how have you fixed them?
Yeah, I mean, a positive side of that was during lockdown. I think for the first 3 years, not a single person I had recruited left, which is quite helpful because it's not just recruitment,
Good sign.
it's also retention that are the key things. What we found as well is the people who have done the best within the organization have a couple of key traits. One is they are mission driven. So they're aligned with our mission. They're data led and sustainability led. Those two things together are key to what we're doing. So if they see someone throwing a plastic bottle in a rubbish bin and they don't kind of go, that's what, I almost need that as a quick test, those little snippets. So there's that side of it, of finding the right people that are aligned in that sort of way. We also find that, as I was saying, there are a lot of transport planners out there, a lot of traffic engineers, and they're all taught to do things in the way we've been doing them for forever. That might mean that they understand engineering 101, which is terrific, but if they can't then see what's next, we find as well that it doesn't work. So the key things are, firstly, I guess three things, always three things. One is they're mission driven. The other is that they can see beyond how they currently do things and are willing to challenge that. And then the third is that they see us as an SME as an opportunity, not a challenge. So
Right.
We're flexible, we're growing, and the people who grab that by the horns and go with it are the ones who are going to really steer that forward. If they see that as there's negativities that obviously come with being in a small organization as well, like I might have to book a bunch of people's travel or something like that as part of my role, which is totally weird. We don't have a person that does an org chart, for example, or orders supplies for the organization or any of that. There's often just these tasks that just aren't being done, or someone has to step in and do them because that's what we need. So for the people who can really grab that and see, hey, there's an opportunity there to lead in that space, not in those activities, but like to say, hey, you know what, we're not doing enough promotional stuff around heat. Let's go do that. We're not being bold enough in this space. Let's go do that. Hey, I could write an article on the grey belt as a solution to the green belt problem of housing growth, which is one of the articles that someone's recently written. If people are willing to take those opportunities, that's the other thing. And that's sometimes something that you can't always see in an interview as well. The on-mission bit you can get, can they see things differently, you can probably get. But then are they going to actually be proactive, autonomous, and self-driven to make that change? It's hard.
My last question for you then. If you had one piece of advice to give to another sustainability company, what would it be?
Come work with us, partner with us. So to be serious in that, find other sustainability organizations that you can partner with. We can't scale on our own, but we need to be pulling all in the same direction. We now work in a place called Sustainable Ventures, as I mentioned in County Hall, and we are surrounded by sustainability businesses. So our ecosystem is now sustainability businesses. And that has helped us a lot to have those other organizations around us who are thinking like-mindedly, but can also take us out of our kind of echo chamber of our own and go to a lunch and learn, for example, that was just on a few minutes ago around why vegetables are good for you, or how the circular economy works, or sustainability and PR, things like that, where you're looking at the industry from a completely different angle. Those things are going to be applicable back to your organization. So get involved in that sustainability ecosystem to learn from other sustainability organizations and find an ecosystem that works for you.
Thank you very much for your time today, Simon. It sounds like City Science is doing great things. It sounds like you're scaling very quickly and expanding. So I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you very much, Chris. Thanks for the opportunity.